I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the well-run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. See conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers could give up.
Politics and sinners, they all the same. Got me stuck in this endless game, but I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all of you.
Good morning. I hope everybody's doing good on this Monday morning. And this morning, you already know how I do. I do independent music. And here we go with Don Tripp, 6 Cents. And I'll be right back right after this.
This track will die.
Told the bank teller I see dead people, and I ain't scared neither. Digging up presidents so I can go help my people. I had a 10-piece in the cut, I was barely legal, and I'ma reap what I sow as long as I thread the needle. I'm live and in living color, I strive through the shit I suffered. I feel like leaves and debris, I'm trying to get out the gutter. Rock, paper, scissors, cause I obviously got the cutter. I'm solid as a rock, and my paper in different colors. Okay, carry on, my legacy set in stone. I promise to stay on these niggas' necks like a herringbone. I promise to not return until I can bring cheddar home. My babies will never know how it sound when your belly groans. Okay, breathe, baby, breathe. Place all your faith in me. I'm ready for whatever, no surrender, no retreat. Got that fully automatic, say the banger on repeat. It take blood, sweat, and tears, time to cry, sweat, and bleed. And I know the ropes, ready to go for broke. I'm always ready for the draw, like folded clothes. Already know I'm throw from guarding my heart of gold. I shed a tear when I watch Rue overdose. Shit hit home for me, I can't lie. I seen it so many times, you see the pain in their eyes. I don't know how to describe, they don't know how to survive. But I know grief and depression could eat a person alive. Since I don't know how to cope, I just get up and grind. Cause if I don't go and get it, it's just a matter of time before the pantry is bone dry and the bills is behind. And when you come from the bottom, it take forever to climb. Look how fast you fall, it start to feel like a slide. And when your home is a living hell, you trapping outside. You take the sack and divide to make your fraction of pie, till you end up in the box, cause you don't walk a straight line. Watch your friends point fingers at you. What happened to loyalty? We don't pay attention until we gotta pay lawyer fees. Federal nightmares is how they destroy your dreams. The more people depending on the nigga, the more it stings. I see dead people, and I ain't scared neither. Digging up the dead presidents, how I help my people. I had a 10-piece in the trunk, I was barely legal. I know I'ma reap what I sow, at least I can thread the needle. Yeah, I see. I see dead people, and I ain't scared neither. They just need dead presidents, I help my people. Yeah.
That was Don Tripp, Eddie Valero, 6 cents. Man, it's been a little bit. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing good. Uh, it's Monday, starting off the week. I got some really good stories that we could sit here and talk about, have conversations about. I'm doing my podcast only 3 days a week now because that gives me time to research, do my homework, and really give you a really good, insightful, and educational 1.5 hours to 2 hours, right? Uh, so, how can we make Minnesota better? How can we make Minnesota better? Uh, and through that, I think it's through education, it's through unity, and it's through accountability. Uh, Maybe I should have said accountability first before I said unity. But that's what it's going to take. And I know that this is the one thing that uh, it's hard for me, right? Because I can tell that the DFL wants nothing to do with the black vote, right? And what I mean by that is they want the immigrants. They want the Somalians. They want all the other nationalities and cultures. Uh, and just give basically the black community crumbs. And I know, this the one crazy thing to me is like one of the big things that I really have a hard time with is people will ask, well, where's the black agenda? Where's this? Where it's there. Look in the omnibus bills. Look in the omnibus bills that are passed. While people are asking, where's the black agenda money? You maybe don't see it in committee hearings. After that first one, when it gets shut down, then they slip it into the omnibus bills because they be so big, people don't even want to read them. They don't even want to do their homework, their research. And that's why Minnesota is really a low IQ voter state. I'm going to be honest. We are a low IQ voter state. And what I mean by that is the majority of Minnesotans are uninformed. They're blind and they go by popularity, not by policy. I'm going to say that again. They go by popularity, not policy. And I want people to really get that into their brain because I don't really think people fully understand the issues that we face because a lot of these have already been at the forefront. The problem is we have black leaders who are paid off, like the NAACP, the Urban League of Minneapolis, Minneapolis Foundation, all that shit. And what's crazy to me is that you can tell that we don't have people that are from here. And one of the videos that I'm going to show you first this morning has to do with Heritage Park. That project, I know a lot of people aren't going to remember because they're not from Minneapolis, they're not from Minnesota. So I'm going to take you all the way back. First, we're going to start in 2026. But after I show you these videos, I'm going to go back into 1990 with Ron Edwards, rest in peace, because he brought up the Holloman Project. And I know a lot of people aren't going to remember that because before it was Heritage Park, there was Sumner Projects there. There was Sumner Projects. They gentrified that area. I'm going to break it down for you. And this just shows how uninformed and such a low IQ voter we have in Minnesota because they don't remember these stories. Because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
A Minneapolis council member is on a mission to save the deteriorating Heritage Park apartments in North Minneapolis and help the families who still live there.
The complex was built in 2006, but conditions have deteriorated so much that some of the units are now unsafe. Fox 9's Karen Scullin reports on what's going on and how it got to be so bad.
Driving down Olson Memorial Highway, at a quick glance, Heritage Park looks pretty nice. But behind the walls are years of neglect and some seemingly dangerous conditions.
The promise was dignity. The promise was safety. The promise was that children born on the north side would inherit possibility instead of neglect.
Heritage Park started out as a symbol of hope and an answer to much-needed low-income housing needs in North Minneapolis. Now it's a problem. Myra Kane is a current resident. A bullet came through her window, which wasn't fixed for 7 months. She battled rodents and insects for 6 months to a year, and she's not the only one with some big issues.
It'd be right there in the sink, or it'd be in a lot. No, the mice was basically in every room, but the flying ants was.
Had mold coming from the vents, and my 5-year-old son was throwing up every day. And the doctor said this is from ingesting mold, inhaling mold every day on a regular basis.
In the last year and a half, 25 families have been moved out. 8 need to be moved out. About half of the 440 units are empty or unsafe. Newly elected Minneapolis City Council member Pearl Warren is on a mission to expose the truth and do something about it. She released this video that is raising eyebrows.
Housing is not just shelter. Housing is public safety. Housing is health. It's education, it's stability, it's the foundation upon which futures are built, and every family deserves that foundation.
The short story is the former owners had financial issues and were not maintaining the property. The condition's so bad, Heritage Park is now in the hands of a court-appointed receiver who will try to fix and stabilize the situation. While that happens, Warren is trying to get a grip on what exactly is wrong and find the funding to make it right. She's hoping the $5.8 million from the state that was allotted in 2024 will come through very soon.
I'm estimating about $1.3 million for the roofs, because there are 38 roofs that needs to be replaced.
The Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, or MPHA, tells Fox 9 it does own the land, but is only responsible for making sure funding is going where it should on about half the units, saying today they didn't know things had gotten so bad until recently, relying on the former owners to tell them if there were problems.
I think what we're seeing here is some of the things that happens a lot of times with affordable housing developments. Individuals think, oh, there's guaranteed money because I'm getting money from Section 8 or I'm getting money from public housing, so that means little to no maintenance. No, that means that you're taking what you're receiving and you're reinvesting it back into the property itself, right? And I think that the reinvestment was not there.
Warren is now asking for financial audits to see how all the money property owners received over the years was actually spent. She's also waiting on structural engineers to take a look at the buildings and determine if they can be repaired and saved, or if some of them might need to be torn down. In North Minneapolis.
This is not new. I want people to know this is not new. This is decade. This started before Heritage Park Apartments even went up, right? This started with the Sumner projects when they gentrified that area and put up. Here's the thing, because they didn't, like, I wish people would really do their homework. And it also even shows that our legacy media doesn't even want people to know the truth. They would rather feed them a narrative than the truth. So here is another video about the Heritage Park Apartments.
If I hired you to do something and you're doing nothing, then how are you keeping your job?
That's the tough question from civil rights leaders today about what they call a living nightmare. People in that community say hundreds of homes are uninhabitable.
Now they are demanding that the head of public housing lose his job. Our Jeff Wagner shows us that property and the desperate call for action, all new at 6.
At Heritage Park in the Near North neighborhood, boarded windows, broken balconies, and cracked foundation provide clues to a downright dangerous situation indoors. City Councilor Pearl Warren recorded this video, touring apartment units covered in mold and crumbling from within. Her narration was a poetic plea for change.
In nearly 200 units, offline, empty, uninhabitable, 200 plus opportunities lost, 200 doors closed, 200 reminders that neglect is not an accident, it's a choice.
We saw one of those units through a window. Resident Eddie Robinson says it was promised to him by management after his apartment was damaged in a flood.
Well, they were supposed to repair this for us to move into. This is the second one that they wanted us to move into.
Almost 2 years later, he says nothing has changed.
Well, right now we're in court.
The Minneapolis Public Housing Authority owns the land, but says its main role is to provide funding for the property owner. From 2022 to 2024, it invested more than $3 million into Heritage, but the problems persisted. Last fall, a Hennepin County court relieved the property owner of control, appointing a third party to manage Heritage going forward. But some feel the blame still falls on public housing leaders.
It is horrific, and nobody should be living like that.
Thursday, the Minneapolis NAACP called for the firing of the executive director of the city's public housing authority, and they want an independent investigation into how Heritage fell into such disarray. Jeff Wagner, WCCO News.
Earlier this year, Minneapolis Public Housing raised another $5 million for repairs at Heritage. The money will go to the court-appointed property manager. In response to the NAACP's demands, Minneapolis Public Housing released a statement saying, in part, it is unfortunate that the local chapter of such a storied organization has rushed to judgment without first...
So I want to go back, like I said, we want to go back all the way to 1990, right? What I'm showing you is the Minneapolis Story Through My Eyes blog, right? If people don't know what that is, you can go on to minneapolisstory.com. I'm going to put this up here real quick in the chat so people can see, and you can go check this out for yourself, because I don't want people just to be like, oh, well, it's not true. Yes, it is true. And I want people to see it that, I mean, this is not new with Heritage Park. This is not new. This all started way before Heritage Park Apartments even came around. And that's what I want people to know, right? Because this isn't Ron Edwards' words. This goes back to all the way from 1990, right? When the Minnesota legislature created the Neighborhood Revitalization Program, NRP, for the city of Minneapolis in 1990, the goal was to provide an economic developmental tool that would democratize, decision-making at the grassroots level and concentrate on the needs of lower-income residents. But evidence compiled by the Tenants Issues Working Group, a coalition of 8 tenants' right groups within the city, demonstrates that resources for the $20 million program were disproportionately spent on white homeowners. Using data collected by independent evaluators commissioned by the NRP, the tenants group found that from 1993 to 2000, 88% of those receiving grants and loans from the program were white, even as the white population in the city was declining from 78% to 65%. Britt Robinson, The White Flight, City Pages, August 14, 2002. This history of Minneapolis is a history of immigrants moving in and moving up. With the first wave, Germans and Norwegians coming in the late 19th century, then followed by a second wave, this time by Swedes, Finns, Serbs, Eastern European Jews, and Blacks. And finally, the last wave, the recent arrival of Southeast Asians and those from Central and South America, known to most whites as Hispanics or Latinos, terms that only a few of them actually use. Most move in and then move on. I find it interesting then that the recently proposed Heritage Walk for the new Heritage Park replaces 4 housing projects. From my perspective, what we have here is a nostalgic reminder of a past all shared, but a reminder to me of the present and the future. Providing more tax money for housing for whites, even though they are a declining percentage of the population. Whatever the intent in white Minnesota nice Minneapolis, or white Minnesota nice Minneapolis, always has a good intent. On paper, the reality is that whites are returning to the city at the expense of blacks. Housing is one of the big 3 of education, housing, and jobs economic development I seek equal access and equal opportunity for all. To repeat, to be self-reliant, people need an asset base. Without human, financial, or physical capital, they cannot prosper. It starts with education. Chapter 7 of his book in the Minneapolis story, through his eyes, it is manifested in housing, this chapter. Chapter 8, it is enabled by jobs. Chapter 9, Minneapolis has and it continues to systematically deny these to inner city poor, especially the Black inner city poor. The Minneapolis story is about the lack of universal fairness in the form of equal access and equal opportunity in housing. Is Minneapolis housing open to all or only to specialized groups? How was Minneapolis housing measured up for different groups, especially Black and white? How was it approached, fairness and access? This chapter discusses the Minneapolis story in terms of housing, with its sordid stories of scandals and cover-ups. When I say through my eyes that it's particularly apt for housing, to my knowledge, I am the only one until recently, besides the coverage and the spokesman recorder, who continually hammered away on the fraud surrounding the Hallman Housing Project. I have done so from my perspective of my position on the Minneapolis NAACP Executive Committee and as the chairman of the Minneapolis and branch NAACP Housing Committee. In 1990, the NAACP was maneuvered by legal aid to get involved in confronting the issue of concentrated poverty in Minneapolis. Legal aid and the NAACP got 14 to 17 citizens together from a cross-section of mostly Blacks and Hmong's. One of those was Lucy Holloman, who became the lead plaintiff. That's why it became the Holloman lawsuit. Initially, they sued Jack Kemp, Ronald Reagan's security of HUD. They were suing about the living conditions and the toxic gases as so many in this country, was built on old brown fields. Whether known by all involved or not, a brown field is land contaminated with toxins, seeking the dual goal of getting the toxic land cleaned up and getting new housing. As the Holloman Project was about HUD housing, every time there was a new HUD secretary, the details on what to do would change. By the time they got to the negotiation stage in the mid-1990s, Henry Cisneros was the HUD secretary under President Clinton. So it became Holloman versus Cisneros. But the original lawsuit was Holloman versus Kemp. On April 20th, 1995, federal judge James Rosenbaum brought the parties, NAACP and HUD, together. They signed a consent decree known as Holloman versus Cisneros. All kinds of wonderful things were in it. It started out with the judge ordering $117 million to be set aside for new housing and relocating 770 families. But then nothing actually happened. It is a great scandal this town doesn't want to admit, as it was all a part of the national agenda of keeping Blacks in their place. That's the thing, like, so it's kind of funny to me to even see like the NAACP even saying that, oh, we want to, y'all shouldn't even be really a part of that shit. Because to be honest, nothing has really changed even in NAACP. I'm going to be honest, because every branch, of course, is differently, right? But in Rochester, it's a Nigerian who doesn't have any Black American history, culture, lineage, or any of that shit. And those are the type of people that we get in the Black community as leaders. We get immigrants who are Nigerian, Somalian, Ethiopian, Kenyan. Like, that should be crazy to me. And then it made me go back to like, why do they be sending all that money back to the, the countries? And because when you look up how much, let's just say like $1 million in cash, right? How much is that in like Somalian money or even Kenya? These niggas would. So I put in 50 million, right? Just a blank ass number, and that's billions in African money, billions, because our money means more. It's like $112 for R1 over here. So when they send it back, them people are getting rich. So now we can see why all the beautiful housing in a lot of those countries are getting better. I'm not saying that everybody's a crook, but when you really look at it, I can see why different ethnic groups send money back home for the simple fact of it. Their American money, I shouldn't say Minnesota, but American money, the dollar, means more in their country than over here. So that's how people get rich. I'm just trying to check if I got any. No, I don't have. So yeah, I just want people to know, like, this shit, these people are getting rich, and the people that are supposed to stand up and do the right things, they don't, because money is a motherfucker. I'm gonna be honest, money is a motherfucker, right? Money is a motherfucker. I want people to remember that, because if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. The Holloman Project is not unlike what many minority areas became: a podium for grandstanding by political candidates, be these candidates presidential or running for governor, mayor, or even city council. The North Side remains just that, a podium for political promises and payola. And the half-baked projects have been failures frozen in time, like Pockman villages or Hollywood back lots of facades with no substance behind them for minorities. As a result of the Holloman settlement, the 4 housing projects were demolished. They were supposed to be replaced with what are called replacement units for public housing residents to be built in Minneapolis and the suburbs. 900 mixed income housing units were to be built on a Holloman site, 300 for public housing residents and 100 for the elderly poor. Housing is important, especially for homeless children. Yet the NAACP and the Urban League colluded with the city, Chapter 14, in not following through on Holloman, including the impact of redistricting on it. And because I protested in my role as chair of the Minneapolis NAACP Housing Committee, the Minneapolis NAACP relieved me of my position. So that's what I want people to know. So that's why I say it's kind of funny when I see Michael Smith, who he was part of the Feeding Our Future shit. The proof is out there. The problem is people don't want to read. They're like, this, like, even the thing that I got this morning, I won't say who I was confronting or calling out, none of that, right? But what I will say is that, like, just say that you're scared, or because I get it. I'm not calling you out of saying you're no bitch, or you're no pussy, none of that. I get it. If people don't, I could be in a lane people are not even in anymore, and I get it. I understand. I'm okay with that, because I've been out. Listen, when me and Marcus were out on Penn, on 36th and Penn, there was a lot of niggas that didn't want to come out there because, first of all, they had families. They had families, and they wanted to go back home too. So I understand it, and that's why a lot of violence interruption groups, they only got certain hours and don't want to be out on demon time, because demon time was when the bad shit happens. They don't want to be out there being violence interrupters. I just want people to see that. They don't want people, they call them violence interrupters, but not really busting up any violence or even preventing it. But now we have the big headline at the end of June 2002 about the McKinsey report that finally talks about public housing, but not in the terms of fraud, but in the terms of, oh, by the way, meaning pure and simple, cover up. Until recently, you would never know there had been any fraud, and the McKinsey report disguises that fraud. So I'm here to report to you that is fraud. The report issued by the giant consulting firm McKinsey is about downtown and Minneapolis citywide. It reports that the Minneapolis Community Development Agency, MCDA, the Neighborhood Revitalization Program, NRP, and the Planning Department spent just under $1 billion on housing. From this, the city has gained a net of only 52 housing units. That is equivalent of $19,230,776 per unit. Let me repeat that. The equivalent of spending over $19 million per unit. The report also says that Minneapolis is 8,300 units short of its immediate affordable housing needs. Did the McKinsey report comment on either the cost or the fraud issue? No. And although the McKinsey report notes that the money has already been spent, it does not address how those missing housing units should be funded. I just want people to know, because even when it goes into like Jackie Cherry Holmes, Natalie Johnson Lee. So I want people to like understand this, is that the city of Minneapolis and all that has always been around it. They've always been around it. That's what I want people to know, is that these people aren't innocent. It's that too many people don't see the bigger picture and they only see the small, right? Right. And that's how, I'm glad that Pearl Warren is bringing it back up about Heritage Park, but I want people to see, like, this is not new. They had a consent decree. They had a consent decree. And are they going by it? No. Should they be? Yes. But nobody's going to make them because there's too many people. I can say this. From the people that are on the council, I don't believe that any of all 13 were probably, plus the mayor, didn't live in Minnesota. Most of them didn't. I think there might be only like one or two, but the rest didn't even know Minneapolis, didn't even know about Minnesota at that time. So now you can see why we have the bullshit that we get, is because we have people that weren't around here. They don't know about this, because I can say this: if it's out of sight, it's out of their mind. And it's definitely out of yours, the voter, because that's not something that you're sitting here talking about or even, thinking about. That's the shit that'd be crazy to me, is that, we're all supposed to be united, but every time you bring up something that will embarrass the city or embarrass its gatekeepers or its leaders or its elected officials, when it's just the truth. Don't get mad at the truth. That's what I want people to know. Why are you getting mad at the truth and not getting mad at the people that allowed it? Why are you more mad at the messenger and not the message? That's one thing that I really took. I watched this documentary yesterday. I watched a couple actually yesterday, American Experiment on Netflix. I watched a little bit about Charleston White. And my whole view on that nigga has even changed with this Carmelo Anthony thing. So I can just really see it, that money plays a big part in our community. And if you don't have it, they don't play with you. And what I mean by that is they don't fuck with you, because they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. They're not going to bite the government. They're not going to bite the legislator, right? And the only reason why Keith Ellison is going after certain organizations is because this the one thing, when I saw Trey Hearn and We Push for Peace, I was like, damn. So that makes sense of why Lisa and Jerry and all of them were kind of backing away and saying he was dirty and all that shit. I bet you people don't remember that. I bet you people don't remember that. They wanted to distance themselves, even though they were all apart. And that's the crazy thing to me, is like, we have people on the north side who have worked with Feeding Our Future, with the Holloman Project, with CSI, in the Minneapolis Public Schools. Like, when are people going to stand up? When are people going to say enough is enough? Because I can tell you right now, you're being taxed without no fucking representation at all. The only people that are being actually represented is the status quo, is the people that have power, is the people that have money. And that's what people don't understand. And that's really, really sad, is like, just even like right now when I'm about to talk about the bathhouses, those got, they got rid of those back in, I believe it was like 1989, right? Somewhere around there, because the AIDS epidemic was big. They, it was rampant. They didn't know. They was just doing shit, right? And now they want to bring it back. But if you really look at it, why are they bringing it back? Is it the right thing to do? No, it's a new tax base. Minneapolis in 2027 is facing a $30 million deficit in their budget. So where are they going to get that money from? They don't want to put it on the taxpayer. They don't want to put it on the tax property. So why not bring a whole new tax base? Because it's the same thing with the weed. The same thing, they tax this fuck out of that weed. Motherfuckers be getting the eighth for like $60, $65. Like, damn, I get mine for like 25. And it should be blazing, be way better than the dispensary. So I don't get it, but I see that like everything comes down to money. So here's about the bathhouses, and people really need to pay attention to how and who voted yay or nay on the bathhouses, because I can tell you right now is that a lot of people up here only had one population, one set of people in their mind, and that's the LGBTQ. They didn't have the constituents of Minneapolis. They had what is actually good for Minneapolis and what's going to make Minneapolis good. Because people got to remember, you already have sex strip clubs down there. I'll call them gentlemen's club, right? But when you go down to southern Minnesota, Albert Lee used to have one. Austin, Minnesota used to have two. Cannon Falls, Class Act. You had Jake's down in Coates. Like, there were so many, but you don't see none of that. The only ones that I really know down in this area that are still open is the one across the bridge in Red Wing and the one across the bridge in Winona. That's the only, and they're both in Wisconsin. They're not even in Minnesota. So that just shows you that, like, how much has actually really changed and what we're going back to. Do people not see a problem with that? Like, we're not going forward. We're taking steps backwards. And are people okay with that? That's what I really want to know. Like, when are people going to stand up and say enough is enough? You know what I'm saying? Because people have been silent, are complicit. Well, silence is complicit. But are looking the other way and be like, well, it's not my issue. Yes, it is. Because it's starting to affect everybody. It doesn't just affect poor people anymore. It's starting to affect even rich, because we have poor people being put in those areas because they don't want them in the cities anymore. So they move them out. They move them to the rural areas where they put in affordable housing, which really ain't affordable, because first of all, the market rate is not, nobody makes that fucking kind of money. Nobody. The Walmart cashier don't make $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year. The McDonald's cashier doesn't. Subway, Quick Trip, the managers barely make 60. Shit, Casey's only, I think it's between, like, right now 65 and like 70 for managers even at Casey's. Like, you got motherfuckers out here. This is the one thing that I don't understand, because like I see like Amy Klobuchar or Angie Craig talking about healthcare and like poor people can't afford it. Bitch, what the fuck would y'all know about being poor? Y'all make $174,000 a fucking year. If you can't pay your health insurance, you're doing something very wrong. I even talk shit when it comes to like Liz Bolden and Kim Hicks, because they make automatically I think it's like $58,000 a year to be a representative and a senator, right? And then you get your per diem. They live far enough away from the cities, from St. Paul, where they can get an apartment So like, it's really fucking crazy what people really stand for. Because if it's about money, we'll do it. We'll sell our soul as long as we're getting something in return, money wise. Because otherwise, if it's just to do the right thing, nobody wants to do the right thing, because getting paid to do the wrong thing equals better than getting paid and not doing anything for what's right.
Well, the debate continues over a Minneapolis bathhouse ordinance that would one day legalize venues once popular in the 1980s.
And there's still a long way to go before that happens. Members of the City Council hearing from residents today ahead of next week's vote. Karen Scullin sat in on today's hearing, and she's joining us live from Minneapolis. So, Karen, let us know what the discussion was about today.
Right, well, bathhouses and having sex at them used to be legal in Minneapolis before the AIDS crisis hit. Well, now some council members and some community members want to repeal that ban that was put in place in 1988, and they're at the very beginning stages of making that happen. Now, the discussion around the issue we're underway with 2 public hearings, one yesterday and one today. At this point, the effort is in its infant stages, with a very long way to go before there would actually be a commercial space where it's legal to have sex. Those who spoke out today were mostly from the LGBTQ community, since that's who traditionally uses these spaces. The argument is that it creates a safe space to engage in sex with condoms and other items available, along with education and resources. Councilmember Vita of Ward 4 made it clear this doesn't mean a bathhouse will open next week or next year.
This policy change will strengthen our public health system. Public health has evolved dramatically since the original bathhouse bans, which were issued in raids, fear, and shame around HIV. Together with new strategies like PrEP and U=U, we have the tools to reduce HIV transmission. And so our task is not to eliminate spaces where people have sex, but to bring people out of the shadows where we can give them the tools that we have in place.
There's not going to be a bathhouse on every block. I think that is the narrative that has been created here, that like, you get a bathhouse, you get a bathhouse, you get a bathhouse, right? Like everywhere, because that is the fear that's happening in my community too. People are like, I want a bathhouse, but not on the corner where the school is.
I still have a lot of questions on this, and I look forward to the conversations before I make my mind up.
Now, the measure passed a committee yesterday with a 4-3 vote. Today's Public Health and Safety Committee, it also passed there with a 6-1 vote. That one no vote coming from Michael Rainville. So now the measures go to the full council next week for a vote. But again, even if it passes, this does not mean that bathhouses and having sex at them will happen anytime soon. There is still a very long way to go. We're live in Minneapolis. Karen Scullin, Fox 9.
Crazy.
Now to the growing divide over what the
Crazy is all I can say about that. Is crazy. Yeah, the only reason why I feel like they want to bring bathhouses back is a new tax. That's it, because they're already looking at a deficit, right? They're already looking at a big shortfall, over $30 million next year. So, and I'm sure that number is going to get bigger as we go on the rest of this year, because they're I think Minneapolis police are it's going to be more than $20 million. And that's the crazy part. I think that people really need to be informed and understand like what's going on. People need to watch Minneapolis City Councils. They need to watch the committee hearings and to have an understanding of what's going on. If you have to read the legislation, the ordinances, do that. Because I can tell you right now, I would rather people be informed on what's going on than to just be out here just saying anything. Because I do agree with Vital in a way of like, the bathhouses would not be on like every block, right? They would have them just like with the strip clubs. They only have them in certain areas, right? So I do believe it would be that way. But we don't need that anymore. Like bathhouses, the only one that in Minnesota is like in Duluth. And that's for not just gay people, it's for both. So I just don't get the shit, to be at the end of the day. I mean, Hey, what you do behind closed doors ain't none of my business, but like doing all the legislation and all that shit for it is just wild to me. Next, I want to go into over the weekend. I believe it was like Saturday or something. Uh, town members said some things about Somalians is like if they don't assimilate, they should just go back to their country. Which, like I said, I commented on this when people had brought it up, and I said it's not that easy for me because I have nieces and nephews who are part Somalian. Um, I never like when they first came over here. The first thing that I got when I noticed them, I would say was like '95. I was in treatment. My mom had put me in, in treatment. I had just turned 18, and I had met. That's when I met Ace. Rest in peace, man. Ace was always like one of my close friends, and then so was, Sadik, his brother, Hamada, and then came, other Somalians like Coolio or like Monkey, rest in peace. Um, you know, it just started to become more. But I didn't grow up with that much diversity, right? When I'm talking about, I grew up with diversity, but not like how it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not just just telling my truth, right? So I never really cared about their statuses or because I know like some of them have been deported, and I've been shocked, because like I was really cool with some of these guys or whatever, growing up back in the '90s in Rochester, and to see that some of them have, we've all made badass decisions, but a lot of them have turned their life around, but yet they were still because of what they did when they uh, got first over here, you know, they got criminal records, felonies. That's why my nephew's dad was deported. Uh, and it's really sad. It's because a lot of people don't really understand it, and it does affect families. Um, so that's why I say like I have a hard time um, with this issue. It's because I don't look at all the Somalians as bad people. I don't. Um, I look at them as a population that was war torn when they came over here in Somalia, and came over here for a better life. And there's some who maybe assimilate, they're, especially the kids. I can't so much talk for the adults, but the kids are so Americanized, where their parents aren't. And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand either, or maybe is that a lot of those kids are their parents might not be American citizens, but they are because of the 14th Amendment. And it does get used in the wrong way because the 14th Amendment is for the descendants of chattel slavery. So, and it comes all down to context and how people understand it, and it really shouldn't. Uh, that's the bad part, because a lot of people, especially when it comes to the Democrats, will like, oh, it's in this context. And then you'll have Republicans, well, say it's in this context, but then you have the constitutionalists are the people that care about Americans, and they'll say, no, this isn't right. I don't care about your politics. I don't care about none of that. If you are here illegally, you have to go. There's no, if other countries do it, why is it such a big ass issue here in Minnesota or even just America? Like, I don't even get that shit. Like, you got people getting in an outrage over immigrants, and I get it. I'm not saying like, um, I'll put it like this, right? Because it really shocks me when I see a lot of this shit with like, ICE that goes on. I see people taking pictures. I see people trying to interact with, impede federal officers, and they end up dead. And I can name two in Minnesota: Renee Good and Pretty, I forget his first name, Alex Pretty, that they didn't have to die. But because our political bases divide us, because you have one side, the left, calling them Nazis, Gestapos. Does that really help? Does that really help? Because we already have a problem with our local police departments, with our county sheriffs. We're not even solving that. That's what I'm saying. When you have so many people jump on issue after issue after issue, and they don't want to stay on them until they can correct them, because they know as long as you work for the government, there is no correcting the shit. Because why would the government want to change something that they started? Why? That's why I always like look at a lot of these people weird, especially when it comes to the nonprofits. Like, especially one of the, I shouldn't say one, but it's a lot of these like food organizations, Feeding Our Children or No Child Hungry. Some of their CEOs make over $500,000 a year, but then be begging the community, why don't you lower that nigga's salary? Then you'll have money to give out. Then you'll have more money to operate with, but they don't care about that. They don't care about that. These people make anywhere. I've seen salaries go as high as $1 million for nonprofits to the low I would say is over 150. But say they're working or they're fighting for the poor person. How? You're not even poor. How are you going to fight for poor people? That's why I always thought that shit was crazy. Even now, right? Because even when you see like people who work in the homeless communities or like trying to help them get out of it, but yet live in the suburbs, live in big ass houses, but yet they feel good because they feel like they're doing something. They're giving back to the community. But what are you really giving back? Because you go to your community where you don't have to see that type of shit. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. But if people see it, then people address it. But if people aren't seeing it, they're not going to address it because they'll be like, well, I need to see evidence. I need to see proof. You need to see what? This what fucked me up about some people, like, especially when it comes to like Jake Lang. I see people like, especially Minnesota people, they get all mad at and rowdy about Jake Lang, which none of them did shit when the nigga was here. But yet say shit. And it's like, hold on, we have niggas like this in our own communities. You have Superman up in St. Cloud. You have the All-American Boys, Oath Keepers, whatever the fuck, the bikers. These niggas don't because I'm gonna tell you like this, it's easier to go at our own people than to actually go at the problem because they're scared of the problem. Most people aren't gonna bite the hand that feeds them. They're not. And that's just the truth. And here's the thing of it is, I know some people aren't cut out for this shit. They're not. Because they would rather want to get along with everybody. Man, fuck that. I'm taking off the kitty gloves. I say what I mean, and it's whatever. I know I have freedom of speech, but that doesn't get me free from consequences, individual consequences. And the shit that I say, I'm gonna bag it up. Because I'll tell you right now, is that we all have the same 24 hours. And in those same 24 hours, what we have in common is air and opportunities. So if you want to do something, and here's the thing, because people be calling me nigger all the time on Twitter, right? On X, but I'll say it like this. I don't give a fuck about you saying some shit over some social media on a keyboard. Say it in my face. Come out to Grand Meadow and say it in my face. Because people be so rowdy to say this shit over social media, but yet will never say it in people's face. And I just don't get it. You know, I'm not big and bad. I'm not one of the realest niggas, but I'm sure not counterfeit. And we all bleed the same. Listen, I've already made it 31 years past than what everybody where I'm from. But the statistic, they said that most motherfuckers aren't even going to make 18. Listen, I've lived beautiful. It's been tough. It's been rough, but I've met some wonderful people. I've met some wonderful people. And I will say this, that I'm willing to die for the people. I'm willing to die for truth. I'm willing to die for change. Some people aren't. They don't want to be in that kitchen because it's too hot. I'm going to tell them like this. Get the fuck on then, nigga. Because I'm going to tell you, this shit ain't for everybody. This shit ain't for everybody. And I can tell you right now is that a lot of activists that came out during George Floyd, a lot of them are under investigation for PPP loans, for fraud. They won't tell you that, but they're under investigation. And some of them won't be charged. Some of them have become confidential informants. So they get immunity. So then whatever the little dirt they did, they can keep it quiet, even though probably certain people know about it. But they're going to keep it quiet because they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. So let's get on with I want to go back to the backlash with Tom Emmer. And maybe he says some things that he shouldn't have said, right? But I really do think people are fed up. And I get it. I'm one of those people, I'm fed up. But I also realize it's not the whole Somali community, because there's some white people, there's some black people, there's some Asians, there's some Hmongs. Listen, that fraud wasn't just one population. It wasn't just one community. It was all over Minnesota. It was all over Minnesota, because I can tell you what, right now, what a lot of people don't remember, or maybe they got amnesia, is back in 2022 legislative session for 2022, 2023, they gave nonprofits $1.1 billion. $1.1 billion. So that it wasn't just local, wasn't just the Twin Cities, wasn't it just Rochester, but it was in Duluth, it was in Crookston, Bemidji, Elbert Lee, Owatonna, Jackson, Blue Earth. Because I can tell you right now, all them communities, there might not be a big community of blacks, Africans, whatever, but there is some. And a lot of them don't even feel out of place because, first of all, a lot of people say, oh, they're racist. Well, they're not racist. They just have a lot of times negrophobia. They just don't, they're cool with some blacks, but then there's other blacks that from a different environment that they can't understand or they don't want to understand. It's just like the same with these trans. And I get it. But why do we got to keep on writing legislations? That don't make no fucking sense. Like, we keep on writing legislation just so people can fuck it over, and then we got to go back to the table and do it all over again. That's the same thing with this Holloman project that turned into Heritage Park. First, it went from Southern Projects, then the Holloman lawsuit, then, you know what I'm saying? You had all that other shit. And what's crazy to me is how people don't bring up the fact that Minneapolis, before their police department was in a consent decree, their housing already was. Way before Minneapolis ever was. Police department was. You had Minneapolis public housing that was in a consent decree. Now, if people go back and do their research or do their homework, they would see.
Congressman Tom Emmer facing some backlash tonight for what he said this week about the Somali community. Ian has the video of what he said that's sparking the criticism.
Please welcome our good friend, Congressman Tom Emmer of Minnesota.
Representative Tom Emmer facing backlash for comments made on Capitol Hill Thursday.
I just said to Sally when I was coming up here, she put great talking points together for me, and I said, do you mind if I go rogue?
Speaking to the Faith and Freedom Coalition's town hall, Emmer discussed Minnesota and crime that's happened here. His focus quickly turned to immigrants and assimilation.
They let immigrants who come to this country not wanting to assimilate lie, cheat, and steal from them our money. Guess what? There is nothing racist about calling out a criminal.
But it was later in his remarks that as Emmer facing criticism, the congressman telling people who don't assimilate to get out.
We celebrate everyone's culture. We're happy with that, as long as you are an American. Celebrate your culture. I don't care. Italian, Polish, Somali, okay? But they don't assimilate. And if they don't assimilate, then they should go the hell back to where they came from.
I'm disappointed with the congressman.
Jailani Hussein is the executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations for Minnesota. He says Emmer's comments are hurtful and unacceptable.
For a congressman who understands the Constitution of the United States and how that operates, to just blatantly target a community, it's unacceptable. I've lived here for all of my life now. I'm as Minnesotan as you can get. I deer hunt in Minnesota. I do all the. So what is he talking about? I don't know what he's talking about. I think other than being racist against Somali Americans.
Emmer's tone on the Somali population has seemed to shift over the past decade. 10 years ago, the congressman spoke at a town hall in St. Cloud, which has a large Somali population. Audio from that town hall was discussed a year later on the This American Life podcast. These are some of Emmer's comments from then.
And if you're asking me how I feel about immigrant populations who are in this country legally and who are actually trying to find a better way for themselves and their families, I support it wholeheartedly. I mean, the Germans had the same problem when they came over. The Polish had the problem. The Chinese had the problem. The other people, I'm going to tell you, the Somalis, according to the measurements that have been used over time, are some of the fastest assimilating populations that we've had.
Now, I have reached out to a spokesperson for the congressman to see if there was any other additional comment or statement past what was said at that town hall Thursday. I was told there was not, but that Emmer has made similar statements on this issue over the past several months. Jenna?
Well, Ian, it's worth pointing out he has ties to the Somali community. You point out there's a large Somali population in his district, but his ties to the community go back to his first term in Congress.
Yeah, I mean, 11 years at this point, right? Emmer and then Representative Keith Ellison, they started the House Somalia Caucus back then. And a statement to the press from the two in 2015 said that, quote, Somalia is not a far-off foreign policy issue. It's a matter of domestic policy and national security. So certainly some things from back then also tied to what we're talking about now.
And a big reason for reaching out is to see, if we could ask questions about what he said yesterday and what does he mean by assimilation?
Exactly, yeah. And when I reached out, I was just told, hey, no statement. What was said was what was said, and they'll leave it at that.
All right.
This confused me a little bit. And I'm going to say it confused me a little bit because, back in 2022, we had me, Marcus, Laverne, Turner, Brian Warfield. So he brought his girlfriend. Laverne brought his wife. I brought Ashley. And I think Marcus just came with us. But the table that we sat at was a $10,000 table. And it was a Somalian Republican dinner. And what Emmer's saying all this shit now, and then you go back to even 2015 when him and Keith Ellison started the Somali, caucus or whatever. But now just saying the shit that he's saying is like doesn't make sense because in 2022 you were pandering to these people. And what I mean by pandering is that they gave them, so this is the crazy thing for me, right? We did this on our own over north on West Broadway. We called it the Northside Urban Outreach Center, right? Right there on West Broadway before you go over the bridge to Robbinsdale, right? Right by Paradise Pizza. There was a gas station right there in front of us. It used to be an old car dealership where we at, right? So Laverne and Brian had did a lot of work to get it, homeless people out of there. We had did a lot. We weren't asking for nothing but resources so that we could give that community in North Minneapolis, make it better. We weren't asking for handouts. And that's the one thing that always baffled me is because even when people wanted to be self-sufficient, they didn't want that. So we go back to over South Minneapolis. So on Park Avenue, they had the Somalian Republican Outreach Center. Me, Brian Laverne, had moved furniture. We did all that shit for that right over there, right? We had a couple events. AK was there. The one that we had, I think it was Cicely, who was running against Ilhan Omar in CD5. You had Matt Burke and Scott Jensen. The lady named Kim Crockett, I believe her name was. They was just there trying to, talk to the people. I shouldn't say talk to the Somalians because there was a lot of different people there. But the way they were pandering, like we really did all this just to be shitted on. And we did it for free while they were paying the Somalians to vote for them. And it didn't even really turn out the way that I think Republicans wanted it to. And that was the bad part. I think that they wanted to get that community. And the one thing that they weren't going to do is, I believe that some of them did not want to go against their morals and values. I'll say it, even ethics, because a lot of people were probably doing too much, right? So I know this video, I don't want to show it all, but I just want to show different parts. There's Han.
Joining us in this historic event. Months ago.
And the other guy, he's an imam. So I met numerous times. There was these two. Trying to go to other people, see other talkers. Because I know they want to. There goes Cicely Tyson. She ran against Ilhan Omar and CD5 that year. Let's see what else talk. Let's see. Here's another guy. He's an imam. He was part of the Somalian community or whatever it is. Let's see who was out there on stage with them. So there goes Burke, Jensen, Han. Yeah. Let's see where else we got. No more Somalian leaders. More Somalian leaders. Here is the keynote speaker. This is what I really kind of wanted to show. This is the keynote speaker, Corey Brooks. Well, I guess they're about to show him in a minute. So this, to me, was the keynote speaker. If people don't know who he is, he's known as the rooftop pastor in Chicago. He slept on top of the building for, I think it was a couple months. Built up the South Side, this building, trying to change that community for the better. So I mean, it was, at least I will say this, like, informational. I will say that it was informational, and people did. I learned a lot that night. Even though I observed and watched, and I didn't really speak or whatever, I just observed and watched. Especially when it came to the politicians. It just kind of fucked me up. So here goes Corey Brooks, and this is the rooftop pastor. Oh, whoops. All right, here we go.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you tonight. Thank you to the chairman for introducing me. Thank you to the Minnesota Republican Party for giving me an opportunity to be here tonight. To all of those who are running for office here in this great state, I applaud you and support you. Dr. Scott Jensen, let's give him a great big support tonight. His running mate, Matt Burke, let's give him a great big support tonight. And all of the others who are running for office, we salute you and we thank you for this opportunity. I'm tremendously grateful tonight to be here, and I hope and pray that I can say something that would encourage you on tonight. It was November the 20th, when a funeral was held a few days before. The funeral of a young man named Carlton Archer who was shot and killed at our church, His parents did not want to have the funeral at the church because they were afraid of what would happen. Carlton was a member, his parents were members of our church, and I never will forget his mother came to me and his father, they were distraught, they were heartbroken because Carlton, who was a good student, but also who had gotten mixed up in gang activity, was shot and killed in the back of their home, and they came to me distraught and broken like any parent would be of a child who had gotten shot. And I never will forget how she said to me, "Pastor, we can't have the funeral here at this church because we are afraid of what might happen to the kids that are coming into the neighborhood. We're afraid that the kids that Carlton grew up with, that something will happen to them as they come into the neighborhood." Mind you, she was only talking about 4 blocks away. And I assured her, listen, nothing is going to happen. And I know that because I've been pastoring in this neighborhood. And this summer alone, I told her I've done over 25 funerals of young black men who have been shot and killed, most of them not even being reported, and most of them, their murders unsolved. I said, nothing is going to happen. You can have the funeral here. I assure you that everything is going to be okay. Well, sure enough, on that day when the kids were walking into the neighborhood, all of a sudden we heard gunfire, semi-automatic gunfire. My heart sank. I instantly ran downstairs to make sure that no one had gotten shot, and thankfully no one had gotten shot. But as you can imagine, chaos was everywhere. The police finally came and we were finally able to get things calmed down, and we debated on not whether we should have the funeral or whether we should go on. But we decided to go on with the funeral. And at the end of that funeral, something happened that had never happened before. I challenged young black men who had brought guns into the church illegally to turn those guns in. I challenged them to make sure that they did not leave. With those illegal guns. I prayed, and when I said amen, quiet was over the whole audience. All of a sudden, a young man stands up and he turns in a gun. Another one stands up and turns in a gun. Another one stands up and turns in a gun. And right then, I realized I had been in this neighborhood and I had not been doing enough to fight the evils that were progressing every single day. And I made a vow to God, whatever you want me to do from this point on to fight the evil in our neighborhood, whatever you want me to do from this point on to take on the battle of keeping our family values together, I'm all in. Little did I know that God would challenge me on that day. And as I walked out of the funeral, across the street from our church was an old motel. That motel had been a center of a lot of criminal activity. Young women were being prostituted and sold. Sex trafficking was the order of the day. Drugs were being peddled. Guns were illegally being sold. The gangs had a hold of this place. And I felt the prompting of God telling me to go up on the roof of that motel and stay there. And don't come down until I raise enough money to tear it down. And that's exactly what I did in the winter of Chicago on November 20th, 2011. I went up on the roof of that motel and I refused to come down. And let me just say this. There are some challenges in life that you must take a stand. There are some challenges in life that come that you must decide that you want to turn things around. And I stayed on that roof, not for 3 days, not for 21 days, but for 94 days. Until we raise the funds to tear it down and then start the journey of trying to build a center. Here we are 10 years later, still trying to build this center, a center that cost $35 million. And how much did we have? $0. And we said, what are we going to do? I said, I know it will do. It worked the first time. Let's try it again. So on November the 20th of 2021, 10 years later, we put 8 train containers together. And I built a roof on top of it. I put 3 tents. And since November the 20th of 2021, I've been staying on that roof, bringing attention and awareness to the violence and the poverty in Chicago, letting everyone in the world know how backwards the left has taken us down the road in Chicago. Over those 10 months, I've raised $20 million. And I believe Allah for the next $15 million so we can build debt free. But since I've been on that roof, I've had all kinds of visitors. People have come from far and wide. Fox TV has given me my own platform called Rooftop Revelation. Right. I've talked to elected officials. I've talked to people from a corporate America, Fortune 500 companies who have come to stay all night. But this past week, I was so inspired. And the reason why I was inspired is because it was almost as if I was looking at myself in a mirror, at a person who is trying to challenge his brothers and sisters to look at things differently. I was recently visited by the Imam Tawakal of the Somalian community here in Minneapolis. I was so inspired when I heard him talk about the things that you are going through. I must admit that my first thought was, what does the Somalian community have to do with me on the south side of Chicago? That was a very narrow way of thinking. But that was just my first thought.
I want people to listen to, make sure that you're listening to this part, because this is important. What he says in his little statement, whatever, I don't know what you want to call it, but his little talk, it was really curious and interesting to see that not so much the Black community had reached out to this pastor, but it was the Somali community, right? That's who brought him here to Minneapolis, right, to talk. And I did learn a lot from motivation, because I kind of felt like we were doing the same. I mean, we weren't on the roof or whatever, but I kind of feel like, because I stayed in there. Me and Ashley stayed in that building and went through some crazy ass shit. I don't regret it. I do wish I would have did it a little bit different, especially with trying to, I don't even know if I could really, because I did, I know Marvina came over, she helped me, paint in the bathroom and helped me do other things. Marcus did what he could do. Brian did what he could do. And Dale was a big help. That was the owner of the property. It was a big help. We were trying to buy the building. Reb Tim Christopher had even brought a few Republicans over to the building to even try to help us. And I know he did what he could. You know what I'm saying? I just know that when it comes to anything that Republican, conservative, and North Minneapolis, they're not going to go for it. I mean, you have business owners maybe that lean Republican, and you maybe have a few homeowners, but they don't make it known. They don't, not like Diane Napper or her husband, Sean Holster. You know, those are two of the prominent that I can think of. And then even over north with like Laverne, Angela, you don't see them getting help from the city or even the county of Minneapolis. It's because they have a different way of thinking. They have different values. They have different morals. They have different ethics. So, and that is the big divide in Minneapolis. And it's not even Democrat and Republican. It's Democrat and socialist. And maybe some moderates in there. Then you have some progressives, but it's not no like Republican. They're all Democrats. We just have even when it comes to their council, you have a socialist majority, and then you have a moderate, progressive. You know, some of them going to like Vital, she's seen as a moderate, Rainville. Then you have Osmond, and the other one is Payne. You know, he was a black man. Then you have, you know, Osmond, I guess, a Somalian, Vital, black woman, Rainville, a white man. Then you have Palisano. She's really I would say you never know where she's going to vote. Sometimes she's with the people, and then sometimes she stands with her party. But even when we look at school boards, I mean, they say it's nonpartisan, but is it really? Is it really nonpartisan? Because everybody has some kind of fucking political affiliation or ideology. So that's the whole part that really frustrates me with they say, well, this is a nonpartisan race, but your policies aren't nonpartisan. They lean left or right. They're not down the center because you either lean one way or you lean the other way. That's what I've really noticed with people that get into politics. It's not about the people anymore. It's not, no, when you get under a political affiliation, like Republican, Democrat, Socialist, at the end of the day, I think some of them do have good intentions, but a lot of them, they're party over the people. It's loyalty over the party over the people, because that's who pays their paychecks, is that party, that affiliation. And then they protect their little gatekeepers, the people that get them in the office. You know, I'll say it like this. I think it was clearer, the example that I'm about to make, when we had the 2025 election with Mayor Frey, and then you had the leader Omar Fattah, who was a socialist. And this is the one thing. So this is a perfect example of the lesser of two evils. The lesser of two evils, because they went with Frey, who he fucks over the community, but if they would have went with Fattah, probably would have got rid of the police department, would have did other shit that most people in Minneapolis wouldn't agreed with. So they went with Frey. That's who you had the black leaders, so-called leaders, you know, some of them, they wanted people to vote for Frey instead of Osmond. There was people over north, or not Osmond, Fattah. There was people over north that probably voted for Fattah, but a lot of them were pushing Frey because they know if they bite the hand that feeds them, it's over with. The same thing with Bobby Joe Champion. Look at who all those bills, especially on the north side, even with, I think her name is Irene Fernando, the Hennepin County for the north side commissioner. Like, come on. Once you get into politics, I can say this, one of the greatest conversations that I've had a few, but that I had with a council member in Minneapolis was the one that I had with Jeremiah Ellison, who at that time was the 5th Ward council member. And the conversation that we had, I had it in Winston Way, right there in Uptown. And the crazy thing, a lot of people in the crowd that were there that day, they didn't even know who Jeremiah Ellison was. That's what started to, one of the things that I really started to notice is that people were blinded. They were following blindly. They weren't even really doing their homework or even like try to get information about who do we go to, who runs the city. So I went over there with Gemini and we talked to DA Bullock, who was with Jeremiah Ellison. And we had a great conversation. But one of the things that Jeremiah told me and that has stuck with me was that he said the seat changes you. Once you get in there, it changes you because, yeah, you can talk a good game while you're trying to run for politics, but understand when you get into that system, it's either their way or no way. They don't like new ideas. They don't like a total way different of thinking, because if it's not the way that they want it or it's not about them, then we don't want to do it. That's why I tell people, if you want to change driver's license for all, if you want to change anything about the trans or even the ICE, I'll say it like this. Republicans are going to have to get a trifecta in Minnesota. We're going to have to at the governor, at the Senate, and then at the House. I'm just going to be honest, because the only way we go forward is, and I know people are going to be like, what is the Republican Party? Do people like, because here's the one thing that I can say about Democrats and the Republicans. Democrats are for bigger government. Republicans aren't. They're for small government. They're self-sufficient. They talk about self-sufficiency. You don't hear that shit from Democrats. They want handouts. They want pick-me-ups. Doesn't anybody see the problem with that? Or is it because you would rather just be taken care of instead of trying to do what's right?
As I spoke with the imam about the struggles facing his community, I realized that we shared so much in common. Both of our communities are being held hostage by woke city governments. More interested in promising woke reforms instead of actual reforms that work. After George Floyd was murdered, many folks in this community, just like across America, thought that the promised reforms would make things better. So they made these promises on national news. They made them in your local newspaper that these reforms, because of the George Floyd murder, are going to make things better for all of us. Since then, I know you have found out the hard way, like we have in Chicago. As we said on the South Side, you've been played. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. You've been ran amok. Since they promised us those reforms, violence has gone up. I don't know about you, but in Chicago, violence is everywhere. Where violence used to be just in these pockets, it is now all over the city. The Magnificent Mile has now become Murder Mile. Why? Because all over the city of Chicago, violence has gone up. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like I've been played. Education has gone down. In my neighborhood, can you believe this? We have a school where they have a 4% reading proficiency and a 6% math proficiency. They promised us reforms, but what we are seeing is the direct opposite. Businesses have suffered. Because of the riots, there are pharmacies in our neighborhood that still have yet to open. Family values have simply been dismissed. I don't know how you feel about it, but my family values mean the world to me. While our problems on the South Side have been going on for far too long, since the 60s, we realize that there is strength to be held in connecting with struggling communities in other cities. Perhaps this will force leaders who feel they can ignore us, perhaps us coming together.
Jake Lang went out to Washington, D.C. for the BET Awards and was confronted. I want people to watch this, about 6 minutes long. So watch this. And same thing that happened in Minnesota, the same thing that happened in Texas. Listen, I want people to notice that he has a house arrest bracelet off. That's the weird part for me, is that he had a house arrest bracelet on, right? So that's why it's kind of suspect to me of how I think that he is a part of, I don't know, the government somehow to sit here and cause chaos and try to divide us. The man has been in Minneapolis, which was a very big crowd. Texas was a pretty big crowd. Even Los Angeles has been. So the same thing with Chud the Builder. How you see with him, he's got the same kind of allegations. He was messing, or I shouldn't even say messing, he was messaging with the 15-year-old decoy. And they found out that it was Jake Lang. And so this just to me shows that we obviously don't have people who are very serious, right? Because they only want to cause chaos. The same thing with Zach X, Becky G, and Alistair, right, in Minnesota, is that you have people who are rapists, who have HROs, who do wrong, but because they're so popular in their little movement that people don't even believe the paperwork that comes out. And that's crazy to me, is that we don't believe the victims, but we believe the perpetrator. That doesn't make any sense to me. And that's why I feel like I'm getting all kind of excuses. Well, they're probably just made up. People lie to get HROs. Listen, man, for the people who don't want to do their homework, because I can tell you right now, Zach could easily put out the papers and say, well, yes, I do have, well, he already has said he has HROs, but he could put it out there that the sexual, especially rape allegations and all that, he could talk about that instead of blocking people or having his little followers sit here and make threats or call you nigger or, do this and that, when at the whole time they just don't want to look at the truth and want to be mad and get in their feelings and do all kind of shit. That's why I feel like, do Minnesota Republicans really want change, or do they want the same old shit? And I really do believe it's like a lot of them want the same old shit, because when it comes to a political outsider, like Mike Lindell and Philip Parrish, and I was a big critic of Mike Lindell, but I will say this, that I trust Phil. I trust Phil wholeheartedly. And the reason why I trust Phil wholeheartedly is because the person that I trust with my life, Robert Johnson, trusts Philip like that. And Philip trusts Mike like that. So then at the end of the day, trust is earned, not given. Trust, I'm going to say that again. Trust is earned, not given. So here you go with Jake Lang out at the BET Awards in Los Angeles. shouldn't have been me. It should not have been me. But he letting people grab shit out of his hand, yes. No, he got hold this shit. Hey, bro, hold this shit. Damn, that's put it on the floor. He's gonna let this people play with me. They're not gonna do nothing for you, buddy. They walked away from me. That's what I see. Yeah.
He's running! He's running!
He should have ran. That's the only way he was gonna get away. I wanted to just show this, right? I want to talk about this for a minute. So when I talk about Zach X, right? This is one of the things that was in his HRO. Uh Zachary, which is his name, he switched it to Zach X. That's public information. You can go look it up. Zachary was a former co-worker of mine during normal work hours. He had harassed me in the past. In 2024, whether it be calling or whether it be yelling at me or making scenes in the department that I managed. Following this, I had been at his residence for unrelated reasons. During this time, he got me drunk and coerced me to have another drink by saying things like, "Well, what's the harm?" Or "You were fine before, just have another," and continue to persist by putting the glass up to my face and telling me to drink. He proceeded to coerce me into letting him take sexual photos and videos of me with the intention of to disseminate after taking these images and videos. I tried to get away from him by laying on the couch and saying I'd like to go to bed, but he picked me up from the couch and carried me to his bedroom where he raped me vaginally and anally. When he first brought me into this bedroom, he was trying to kiss me, to which I pushed him away, but he grabbed me again. I told him he was hurting me because he was aggressively biting my lip to the point that I could taste blood. I kept telling him to stop, but he didn't become less aggressive. I felt it felt like me saying no was adding fuel to his fire because he then forced me to get onto his bed and got on top of me. I continued to say no and told him I was too drunk and uncomfortable, but he made comments about me doing this thing with everyone else, so why not do it with him, referring to my past sexual encounters. I did not. I did do an unrestricted kit at the St. Cloud Hospital within 8 hours of the event and have been part of an ongoing investigation. So I will say it like this: if people would do their homework, go up to St. Cloud and Wright County, where he has one in Wright County and he has another in Stearns County. So do your homework. Stop letting these fucking people do you. And that's how this is the crazy thing, right? So thank you. No one understands how much bullshit these HORs are on me. And it's absurd that people can lie and women get extra special care when lying. And now I have to deal with the lies and deceit. You know what's crazy? So he admits that he has HROs, right? He admits it. He admits it that he's doing HROs, right? It's just that, like, this is why I unfollowed a lot of people that were sticking up for this nigga, right? Because it's crazy to me how you take the perpetrator's word, but never the woman's. Never the woman's. She had it. You know what's the crazy thing to me, right? If y'all believe Zach so much, go up to Stearns County. Talk to the St. Cloud police. Because I had a whole conversation. I had a whole conversation on Friday with Stearns County because I did have I had some numbers and they weren't coming up, right? And on the Minnesota court record. So I called. I said, hey, I know these are real, numbers, but why aren't they coming up? And she told me that they were private and that they weren't allowed to give out that kind of information when HROs are private because of the risks or the things that has been happening. So when I talked to the woman in St. Cloud, she told me that he has people that go up to the job, driving around her house and trying to scare her. So the judge believed her. The judge believed her. The prosecutor doesn't. So that didn't make it. I think a lot of it had to do with her background. And that's when we're victim shaming. We're victim shaming her other, sexual escapades, which have nothing to do with this rape. That's what's crazy to me. So do we really want truth and accountability and justice? Or are people just saying whatever people want to hear because you don't really care about that. So that's where I'm going to leave it at that. People say, well, you got an obsession with Zach. No, I don't. I do this. I didn't call people looking to get info on this nigga. People sent me information. I didn't go digging for this nigga. People came to me. So what I've done my whole entire time that I've been a civil rights activist, whatever you want to call it, I've stuck up for the little guy, the little person. Doesn't matter if it's calling out drug dealers. Doesn't matter if it's calling out people who have been accused of rape. Doesn't matter to me. If you are doing wrong, I have smoke for you. It doesn't matter if you're a drug dealer. It doesn't matter if you're a gangbanger. It doesn't matter if you're the police. It doesn't matter if you're an elected official. The same way I go at Amy Klobuchar. Same way I go at like Kim Hicks or a lot of these other motherfucking elected officials. This is what I do. This is what I do. And I ain't never gonna shut up. So I speak the truth. Oh shit. Inmates took over a prison in North Carolina. Damn. That's wild. But yeah, man, that's it. It's just what it is. And people obviously don't want to tell the truth and don't care about it. So that's where I'm gonna leave it at. I want people to do their own research. I want people to do their own homework. I want people to gain their own knowledge. And I'm okay if I need to point you into that direction. Because a lot of the crazy ass shit, it's out here. Even like this Minnesota Promise Act. I ain't forgot about Salem Inc. And I'm going to talk about that on Wednesday with Winston Boogie Moore, Chasma Dixon, Salem Inc., Bobby Joe Champion. I'm going to show how Bobby has been the attorney and then allows these people to get, he gives them money. $3 million to Jerry, $3 million to Lisa, $30 million to Minnesota Safe Streets, which was the Black agenda, but because people don't want to go do their homework and look at the omnibus bills, they don't believe it because they don't see it. That's because you won't look for it. Out of sight, out of mind. Man, and that's today's episode. I hope everybody had fun. You know, I'll be back Wednesday, same time, 10 o'clock. And we'll get into some more shit. But I'm going to tell you like this. I am going to attempt to lead people to the water. I will lead you to water. Now, if you drink it or not, that's up to you. I don't have nothing to do with that. All I can do is help lead you there. I can't make you drink. I can't. But I can lead you to the water. And I'm going to lead you there by education and understanding and care. You know what I'm saying? But when people get out of pocket with me, I will get out of pocket with you. So we all bleed the same. And the only man that I'm scared of is God, because only God can judge me. So I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all have a great day. Have a great Monday. Have a great Tuesday, especially if you're in Minnesota. We're in a heat streak for the next couple of days. Stay hydrated. Stay cool. Stay as safe as you can, man, because I know there's people out here staying in tents. There's out here people that are homeless. And let's just make sure they're okay for the next couple of days. Let's care about others. That's what this is all about. Let's care about others. So, about to get up out of here. I'll be back Wednesday, same time, same place. And I'm going to get up out of here. Here goes Bryson Gray with Just Rude. Nah, for real. And I'll see y'all Wednesday.
Holy Spirit, you did it again. Praising God up in the streets, don't need a building, I'm the church. Kingdom stepper, anything I put my hand to gotta work. Demon killer, I know when God pruning me, it gotta hurt. Only time that I get high is off the spirit, not a perk. I put the weed down, had to put the old me in a pack. Living free now, God done took the chains up off my back. I can see now, if you seek the kingdom, never lack. That's who I be now. Bible told me, step, I stand on that. Not for real, want my soul, then it's no deal. Chasing nothing, no meals. Demons move when I walk in, cause they already know the drill. And I ain't scared of death, cause every day my flesh get killed. I take up my cross when my father got off, let's keep it real. Is you living what you're preaching, or just talking on a mic? Is it all about a check, or you're really in a fight? Are you really winning souls, or you just getting them hype? Only God knows your heart. I just pray you living right. God up in the streets, don't need a building, I'm the church. Kingdom stepper, anything I put my hand to gotta work. Demon killer, I know when God pruning me, it gotta hurt. Only time that I get high is off the spirit, not a perk. I put the weed down, had to put the old me in a pack, living free now.